consequences of incorrect rehabilitation. Nicola Takusel, Savchuk Yulia, manager of projects, Smile for Ukraine, and Prokopyshina Tatiana, manager. Nicola Takusel, the floor is yours. I will be speaking French. Good afternoon, I am Nicola Takusel, I am the founder of NGO Smile for Ukraine. I have decided to come to live to Ukraine after the events in Ukraine in January 2014. My grandfather was from Mariupol, and that is the reason. Also, because French media were talking a lot about Ukraine, I decided to come here and to see with my own eyes what's happening here. And for some time I was traveling between France and Ukraine, and sometime later I met a big group of psychologists who were working on rehabilitation of military who were in ATO area. And then I realized that there is a big problem of psychological rehabilitation. And the second big problem of psychological rehabilitation is that Ukrainian soldiers do not want to talk to psychologists, and they do not believe that psychological rehabilitation is something important. And that is after talking to Ukrainian psychologists, I decided to found the NGO Smile for Ukraine. Why this is called Smile Ukraine? Because in the dramatic context it is important to preserve some positive. Because I believe that during the war is won not just during the battle, but the society wins the war when the society demonstrates its ability to rehabilitate and to continue normal life. And the psychology of a warrior is a very important topic before the battle, during the battle, and after the battle. In Ukraine, there are many organizations which are working on psychological rehabilitation, but out of those programs, there are few strong programs. And that is why we developed the programs which combine, on the one hand, the positive psychology. Also, they combine the elements of mental training. And this is important because we cannot introduce one program for the soldier who suffers from alcohol abuse and another one who is planning to go back to fight to Donbass. That would be like a person who goes to the dentist when he has a stomach ache. And I would like to give the floor to Ms. Savchuk, and she will be, after that we'll talk about the psychology of a soldier. Thank you.
Доброго дня.
Good afternoon. After the events that happened in our country, many volunteers left for Donbass to protect the country and to fight for the independence of the country. But when they come back from Donbass, they feel that they are left alone with all their problems. For us, it's very important to understand that very soon these problems will become the problems of the entire country, because those people have problems with alcohol, they have problems in family relations, in relations with the children, etc. And thus, eventually, we may find ourselves in the situation when heroes will become our enemies. This situation might ruin the country from inside. Also, the situation is very difficult with the children. Those children who stayed in their zone of conflict, those children who are IDPs, they experience a lot of communication problems at schools. They experience some sort of stigmatization among their classmates, etc. Quite often, children grow up in a situation when they see the neighboring state as an enemy, and very soon they can extrapolate this hatred on their native country, and in the future they will blame others in all their failures. And that's why we pay attention to the rehabilitation of the servicemen and children. The major activities of the Smile of Ukraine are as follows: rehabilitation of the servicemen before, in course of, and after military activities, assistance provided by Ukrainian psychologists and volunteers, organization of trainings, and cooperation with other NGOs. The Smile for Ukraine programs were developed in cooperation with French psychologists and psychoanalysts, and we have really quality programs, and we believe that we should act today in order to prevent the worsening of the situation in the future. One of the major goals of our organization is that we need to involve as many psychologists from all around Ukraine, as many as possible. Nicola has founded the rehabilitation program, which is distinctive from other rehabilitation programs. And we are ready to deliver trainings to psychologists. And now we'll look for volunteers. Not all the volunteers who go to the ATO area, not all of them are ready to cooperate with us. That's why we need as many volunteers who are psychologists as possible. Thank you.
Дякуємо нашим спікерам. Будь ласка,
Dear colleagues, if you have questions, you are welcome to ask them. Please don't forget to present yourself. I have the question to Ms. Savchuk. You mentioned that children first see their neighboring state, the enemy, and later they will perceive their own country as the enemy. What happens?
Unfortunately, I'm not a psychologist. I will not be able to explain that. It's probably better to ask this question to Nicola. And the second question, you mentioned that the program founded by Nicola is different from others. And what are the criteria for you to look for psychologists, and what is the difference? I cannot tell you what the difference is, but you should understand that in Ukraine, psychologists work not like in the US or Europe, and Nicola has been doing it for all his life. He spends a lot of time on that, and he developed a program which is not similar to what we have in Ukraine. Nicola probably will explain it. So, answering the question about children, why do they risk to see the enemy in this state? This is what Ukrainian psychologists told me, those who work in schools. And that is from the point of view of psychology, this is the normal reaction, because many of these children have parents, fathers who died in Donbass, perished in Donbass. And that is very interesting. Very often children talk about that, even in the families where these issues are not discussed at home. Where at home there's no idea that Russians are bad, Ukrainians are good. That is what children decide between themselves, and that's the reality. It is important to understand that the psychology of a child differs from a psychology of an adult person, and we need to understand their reactions, which are so different from reactions of adults. That is why it is important to calm down, children, to calm down, because it depends on children what will Ukraine be in the future. Children, are like seeds, like flowers. If from the early age they start hating, then when they are adult they will act differently than if they were in different conditions. And the difference in programs. So the answer to the second question, what's the difference between the programs suggested by Nicola and the programs which exist in Ukraine? The main difference is that Nicola is using his program very technically.
Où on travaille sur un point de vue émotionnel pour le soldat. C'est une technique pour l'émotion.
Його програма відрізняється.
The program is centered, focused on emotions of a soldier.
Réagit sous forme de programme quand il est dans ton passe et le but c'est de désamorcer ces programmes. Ce n'est pas en leur faisant faire une semaine de peinture que l'on désamorce ces programmes. Ce n'est pas en leur faisant danser que l'on désamorce ces programmes.
You need to understand that the military, when getting to the ATO region, his brain launches a certain program. It's difficult to replace it by a week of painting, as it is suggested by psychological assistance. It cannot be replaced by a few days of dances. The assistance to be provided is to be systemic, based on a program, to reload the program in which the military is.
Un soldat qui retourne à la vie civile avec un soldat qui va retourner combattre dans ton passe.
And also it is important to remember the psychological assistance to the soldier who returned from ATO zone and the one who is planning to continue regular life is different from the assistance provided to a soldier who comes back and then is planning to go back to ATO zone. And the objective and methods of these programs are absolutely different.
Шановні колеги, якщо в
If you have any other questions, you're welcome. One plus one channel. How many people have participated in the program?
Pour le moment, je suis intervenu personnellement, c'est-à-dire à mes frais, dans des réhabilitations et dans des consultations individuelles et de groupe sur différentes villes en Ukraine. J'ai vu une soixantaine de soldats.
Nicola says that in many different regions of Ukraine and many different cities, in the collective work, 60 warriors participated in this program.
Relayer mon information et les méthodes que nous avons mis en place. Donc ça fait à peu près 300-400 soldats.
But this figure, but there were basically more and people, because the methods were communicated by Nicola to others, and here the number of people is 300, 400. A year has passed since Smile for Ukraine was founded. There has been a lot of work done, but things are moving slower than we would like to. And till today, the work that he has been doing, he was doing it on a voluntary basis. There's no funding for this program. That means that I pay for my accommodation, for tickets and so on.
Bien sûr, on a besoin de sponsors parce qu'on a besoin de se développer. Et jusqu'à présent, comme je disais, c'est moi qui payais tout à mes frais. La dernière semaine de réhabilitation à laquelle j'ai assisté m'a coûté personnellement 700 €.
Yes, I do need a sponsor for development. If there is a need to enhance the psychological assistance, The last week, the trip for a week cost him 700 euros, and he's spending, and I'm spending my own money. And I'm not Rothschild, the resource is limited.
Sur le site internet smileforukraine.com.
Pay attention that in the internet there is a web page of NGO smileforukraine.com, and also you can find the page in Facebook, Smile for Ukraine. Any other questions? Thank you.
Est-ce que la société ukrainienne peut vous aider à développer votre projet?
Bien sûr.
Отже, питання було.
Thank you, Nicola, for what you're doing and how Ukrainian society can help you in your work.
Tout le monde est concerné, tous les gens qui vivent en Ukraine, toutes les personnes qui sont en Ukraine sont concernées. Donc effectivement, on a besoin de la société ukrainienne et on a aussi besoin d'aide du gouvernement ukrainien.
Because the problem of psychological rehabilitation concerns all Ukrainians, because we all live in one society. I believe that Ukrainian society can help me, and also Ukrainian government can help me.
Parce que jusqu'à présent, c'est passé dans l'urgence. Et l'urgence, on le sait, c'est jamais bon pour gérer une situation de crise.
There is a big need to get united, the need to plan the actions, because till now what Ukraine is doing, it's doing urgently. And that is fundamentally wrong. We need to plan for the future, to think about the consequences.
Dans 5 ans, ces militaires, ces enfants, si on se projette dans 5 ans, ça peut être très dramatique cette situation. C'est pour ça que c'est important dès maintenant que tout le monde soit concerné et que toutes les bonnes volontés fassent quelque chose pour aider ces combattants de la liberté et les aider pour l'après.
It is important to understand what will be here in 5 years, where this military be, where their children be, and what their children will be. That is important for Ukrainian society, and the common interest of all Ukrainians is in providing successful rehabilitation for these people. Thank you. No more questions? Then we would like to thank our speakers at 12:30. Colonel Andrei Lysenko.